Okay, so I have done videos on the spot healing brush and the healing brush tool. And when you're touching up a photo, that's really the place to start. So in the whole process of touching up a photo, we remove the blemishes, we take care of wrinkles, and I'll come on back into here. Let's see, which image is that I was working on? Somewhere. Oops, sorry, I have a whole bunch of other images opened. Okay, these are all images that we could use to touch up. But if we take a look right here, right, this was the file, and I have a couple of videos where I'm going over getting rid of these blemishes and such with the healing brush. But let's take a look. We get this all done. We have things to a point where we've gotten rid, and these are all pictures you could use too. We've gotten rid of those blemishes, the red eye, some of the wrinkles. We want to keep it more subtle. So now let's take a look at how can we go in and really airbrush this and smooth out this skin. Well, so here goes. We can get rid of some of these pores very, very easily. All right, so this is what we're going to do. And again, I can look and see I could spend more time fixing up the hair and all that stuff, but let's keep on moving. So what I want to do is I have a layer underneath, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate my layer. So layer, duplicate layer. Okay, here we go. Now I'm going to come on into to layer 1, and I want to rename this layer. Okay, and I want this layer to be my blur layer. Okay, and then this one's going to be my original layer. So make sure that we have the first layer chosen, and what we're going to do is we're going to put a filter on this. So we're going to come to filter, and we are going to come to blur, and let's do a Gaussian blur. And let's see, again, it really depends on the resolution of your image. I'm going to go for about 2. I'm going to hit OK. Now when I turn off this, can we see the difference? And maybe I could have even gone up a little bit more to be a little bit more dramatic. But let's keep it at this. And I'm going to zoom in. Now I'm on my top layer. The blurred layer, let's lock the blurred layer. So then, it's going to be there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my eraser. Here is my eraser, my plain old eraser tool. And I can up the eraser if I'd like. And I'm going to lower the opacity just so I can start taking things away slow. Now it's real important too, we want the hardness to be at 0. Okay, and I have my opacity lowered. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start coming in and start erasing. And it should start to kind of, and I'll zoom in, see how it's starting to dull down these pores. Now if I wanted to take a little bit more away, I can. Again, it's just very, very subtle. And even as we look at it from a distance, it's kind of hard to tell exactly what's going on, and that's really what we want. Now we want to be careful. We don't want to come in and hit the nose, right? We don't want to come in. See, if I was to get rid of this, we don't want the eyes to look blurry. No, we don't want that at all. So we want to make sure that when we do this, that we're not hitting, whoopsie, hold on, sorry, I'm pulling things off, that we're not hitting the information that is telling about the structure of this face. And what I'm doing right now, I'm zoomed in, I'm working with my hand and my eraser, and I'm just dulling down these dramatic pores. And this is the story too, right? When you're working on touching up a photo, a lot of times you're going to find yourself in super, super close. All right, so that's the idea. We can go in, we can really get rid of info about pores. Let's zoom it on in a little bit. Let's come on in over here. Right now what that does is starting to kind of blur down this real sharp, dulling down the pores. It's nothing like zooming in and seeing seeing your face. Oops. Okay, now I kind of hit that area that I didn't really want to hit, so the edit undo is really good. And again, your history brush, your history panel is the way to go. And you can see that I have my history panel going right in here. I'm using my keyboard shortcuts, moving along. Again, we're really after these more subtle changes. All right, so this one was with the Gaussian blur, and there's so many different ways to do this, and sometimes, it can be a little bit overwhelming because with the Adobe products and with Photoshop, there's a lot of different ways to get the same kind of effect. So I just want to show you another filter that you can use. And let's see, coming on in, kind of blurring this on. What's great about what I'm doing right here, some of that redness, the blotchiness, it may help to get rid of some of that. And just blurring it all in. And I want to be careful in here now, just to moving through our pictures. Okay, and there we have it. Now again, much more subtle changes. There it is blurred. And if we come right, oops, I have the picture again somewhere else, but I'm not going to worry so much about that. All right, so we could come to this one right here, Untitled 2. And let's take a look at another way that we can go about creating a filter. So here goes. So what we want to do, we have our image right here, and we are going to apply another filter to this one. This time we're going to come on into Filter, and we are going to come to Other, and we are going to come to High Pass. All right, so now this, you might be thinking, gosh, this is opposite of what I wanted. Okay, what this is going to do is it's going to start to sharpen it. I'm going to set the radius probably about like 1.5, okay? And what we have here is it has sharpened it, so we hit OK. Now the problem is that it has this. All right, I'm going to actually go back for 1 minute. I'm going to duplicate my layer first. Let's do that. So we have the original layer, duplicate layer. Okay, I'm going to lock this layer. So it's actually good. I want to have a copy of it. I should have done the same with the other one so we could really see what we've changed and how it looks. All right, so on this layer, I'm going to go back through. I'm going to apply another filter, Filter, Other, and this filter works nicely too for getting our airbrushing effects. I set it at 1.5. I say OK. There it is. Now, what we want to do is we're going to change the overlay because we're going to change the blending mode because we have this gray over it, and we want to change it to overlay. Now, let's zoom on in, and what we're going to find if we compare the two, actually, and it's pretty subtle. Hopefully, you can see it. If you're watching my video in HD, you'll be able to tell. If you're working on your own computer, you'll be able to tell too. So we can see that that's actually the difference, right? Do you see how it has that blur, that blurred feel to it? Okay, and what it does is it kind of dulls down the pixels that are in this image. Now I could have upped the radius, and then we would have more of a blur. All right, so let's go back. Let's try that actually. So we pasted our layer, we duplicated our layer. Let's come back. Let's go to this. Let's try it one more time. Let's come to Layer. Let's go to Filter, and we are going to do Other, and we're going to do High Pass. And let's try it. Let's go for 3 pixels. We'll say OK. Okay, and now we're going to change it to get rid of that gray. We're going to say Normal Overlay. Now, here we can say the difference. All right, now you might be thinking, that's the opposite. What I've just done is I've really sharpened it. I've pulled out all of these pixels. I've actually pulled out, you can really see all of these pores. Well, now what we're going to do is we're going to actually inverse it. That is our next step. We're going to inverse what we have, and then we'll take it from there. So moving along, let's go for our inverse. Okay, so we're going to come on up here to Image, Adjustments, Invert. Okay, so now we can see the difference, okay? We went from it being really sharpened, now it is super blurred. Okay, now this is our next step. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a mask over top of this layer. So we're going to come on over, hold down Option, and I'm going to click. And now what I've done, holding down Option on the Mac, I believe it's all on the PC, I have put a mask over top of this image. So we can see, actually it's the exact same. So now what I'm going to do with my mask, and I would definitely recommend, if you don't feel like you understand masks, go back. I have a video on working with masks. So what we're going to do now is we are going to come on in, and we're going to grab our brush. We can see we have white up on top. We're going to grab our brush, and again, let's lower the opacity, right? So we can just kind of, and what we're going to do is we're going to come in, and with white up on top, we're going to start taking away some of this info. Now, if our opacity is down, it won't take away too much at once. Again, I'm going to zoom in. We're going to see we're going to get similar kind of effects as we just did in the other one. So I'm coming back. This is working. Moving right along, moving on through. Getting rid of all of this info on the pores. Again, we don't want to get rid of too much of it though, because then it just doesn't look real. Looks like the cover of National Enquirer, which the graphics have gotten really much better. I remember back in the day, it would always look super, super fake. Okay. So you can see, zooming in and, just kind of, now this is a place, remember if you watched my videos from before, I said, oh, this info down here, it's kind of a little bit tricky to really clone this out. It just wouldn't look quite right because there was too much info. The chin would just look crazy. We kind of wanted that info on the fact that she's pulling her neck back and gives her like this double chin kind of feel. But we can kind of blur these pixels a little bit. See. All right, let's zoom it on out. We can see some of these changes. We turn this off. All right, it is much more subtle. It might be hard to tell the differences, but let's come on in over to here. I'm going to up the opacity. Make it a little bit bigger. Again, make sure that your brush maybe here we can tell some of these differences a little bit more. And again, as we zoom in, we absolutely can tell. So let's see. As we come on in over here, dulls down. All right, so that's how we would go about airbrushing a photo. And, you can play around with how much of a blur of the pixels that you want. But again, as we touch up our photos, our first step, really remove blemishes, work with the spot healing, the healing brush tool, and then coming in and working with some of these filters to get an end result. Again, as you work, keep zooming in, look at the subtle differences, and you're going to find too, as you work on your own computer, that you'll be able to see a lot of these changes, a lot of these differences, and enjoy it, have fun. This is actually a lot of fun to do. And we're close up, we can kind of save. Again, if you're not watching this video in HD quality, it might be hard to detect some of these changes and differences. I will end there. Thanks for listening.